what that means if we do get GMO labeling here in the state of Pennsylvania. He'll also discuss what we can do as consumers in order to try to get this passed through legislation. So without further ado,
thank you,
Senator Leach.
Thank you, everybody, and it's good to be with you tonight. I apologize for being slightly late, and I apologize for having to leave soon. I am currently running for Congress, which is my schedule is unmanageable. So I'm doing the best I can with that, and within the confines of the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. In any event, I just want to say a couple words. First of all, I want to put in a plug for something we're having. Our GMO, we're showing a movie, OMG GMO, on Saturday at 11 at the Bryn Mawr Film Institute. At which point we will also be having afterward we'll be having a panel discussion on the issue. And we've done this before on a number of other topics, whether it's human trafficking or eating disorders or some other things. And the typical response, we usually have about 100 people, and we usually have about 70 or 80 in advance who call up and say we're coming, and a few other people show up. For this event, as of a few days ago, we were up to 180 in terms of RSVPs. I don't know where we are now. I don't know if Taj, you have any inside information on that. I've been out of the office if that number has gone up at all. But things are. There seems to be a great deal of interest in this. Let me just talk about my bill. First of all, I drafted my bill with a couple of things in mind. I drafted my bill with most importantly, the political reality of Pennsylvania, which is, taking into consideration who the governor is, who's controlling the legislature, who is, who are the choke points, and what is something we can sort of reasonably accomplish. Sometimes you shoot for the stars. Sometimes you're like, we're not going to make any progress on this, on X issue whatsoever. So we're just going to, introduce what we would like to see in a perfect world. And then, we'll take the debate from there. Other times you think it is possible we can make some progress. So if you can do that, I'm a big believer in incremental progress in moving the ball forward. So given that, I'd like to start off by saying what my bill does not do. My bill does not ban GMOs. My bill does not even require warning labels. There is no, danger, GMO, you'll die. Now, I would note that we do have products with warning labels, tobacco being the most obvious example, where it's like, if you pick up a pack of cigarettes and it says on the back, danger, this product will kill you. If you smoke this, you will be in the grave, okay? And that's pretty stark stuff. And people still buy the cigarettes, so I'm not sure how effective these warnings are. And we're not requiring warnings. My bill is extremely modest. My bill, all it does is require that you tell people that you put on the label in a reasonable way that the product contains GMOs. This is not a radical concept. When we put an ingredient in a product, in a food product, you have to label it. If you put a tomato in a can of soup, you have to put tomato on the label. If you put celery, you have to put celery. If you put monosodium glutamate, which is my personal favorite, you have to put that on the label as well. This is not, so all we're saying is, like all of those, if you put GMOs on the label, you have to label it. The reasons for this, first of all, there are a lot of studies, and there's conflicting studies in the science. You know how these things are. And, of course, the industry has their position. And you have to keep in mind that corporate America has always had a natural affinity for defending their products. We had, just a few years ago, not long ago at all, that every executive of every major tobacco company get in front of Congress and swear that he was unaware of any evidence that their tobacco was harmful in any way. We all know now from internal documents as a result of lawsuits that wasn't true. And that there's example after example like that. So Monsanto and the other food places, they're saying the GMOs are fine. Other people say that there are real problems, reproductive problems, cancer. Some things take decades to show up. Other things we see in mice, real problems. And to me, when I read the studies, at least the studies at the very least would, if you read them all, you would not be irrational to want to wait before you ate GMO products. And if you decided you didn't want them, that would not be a crazy, irrational decision. Now, maybe the science is not yet, we can debate this, but maybe the science is not yet at the point where we have met the burden of proof for a ban. Now, in certain places in Europe, they feel it is at that point. But let's say it's not. The burden of proof for a ban is much higher than the burden of proof for information. It seems like the burden of proof for information should be extremely low. And so my bill requires that. Now, the industry, as you know, fights hard even not only against bans, but against even labeling. You saw what they put $47 million into California, and they've just put a whole bunch of money into Washington State, and they were quick to jump out when I introduced my bill. And I just want you to understand their position. I mean, their position is just an amazing position to take. It is what I call the Jack Nicholson defense, which is that you can't handle the truth, okay? Because if we tell you that your product has GMOs in it, you will act like a housewife who sees a mouse and jump on a stool and go eek. You will not be able to process that information in an intelligent way. You will be so irrationally fear-stricken that you may not buy their products, and that's bad. And so they have taken the position that you can't know admittedly factually accurate information about what you put in your body and feed to your families, and that is, to me, just such a breathtakingly arrogant position to take, and it's got to at some point offend the American people. That they have taken that they have taken this position. Keep in mind, we can have arguments about scientific studies. That's the quickest way to empty a room. But it's again, there's enough that you're rational in making the decision. You don't want these in the scientific studies. But even beyond the scientific studies, there are some people who don't want to consume GMOs for reasons having nothing to do with scientific studies. I've talked to people who have religious objections. I've talked to people who have moral objections or balance of nature objections, or are just like, you know what, I just don't want them, okay? I feel like that about water chestnuts. I just don't want them in anything I eat, okay? And so, we're saying to people, you can't know, even if it's important to you, that when you make a decision what to feed your family, you cannot know this information. That is just unacceptable. Keep in mind, they fought us on ingredient labeling in the American food industry. They fought us on nutritional labeling. We prevailed on those because it is in America's DNA to want to know what they're eating. And we will prevail on this. It'll take some time, but there's already movement forward. We've seen some private companies start going GMO free, or at least requiring labels. We see Whole Foods took a stand. I don't agree with everything Whole Foods does all the time, but particularly their pricing system. But that's a separate issue. We saw that just last week. We saw, and I don't know how real this is. I'm just too busy. I haven't had time to read all the stuff on it. But we saw Cheerios is now putting out a GMO-free product. And keep in mind, if the food industry is right, because they're like, GMOs are good. They give you more vitamins. They do this. If the food industry is right, then, fine. Label your products and brag. Now, more GMOs! Exclamation point. Big smiley happy GMO guy. That's fine. If they want to do that, they can convince people, and they will convince certain people that this is good. That's fine. And frankly, I also think industry is missing out on another opportunity, which is that, right now if you go to the supermarket, you have fat-free, and then you have sodium-free, and you have gluten-free, and and it's a whole new market. So you can have GMO-free and, extra GMO and nothing but GMO. And you can have all of these, and the consumers can choose. And some people will buy the GMO stuff. And some people won't, and everyone makes money and everyone's happy. So, I just think that we have to continue to make the point, and I will continue to make the point, that all I'm asking for now, someone else may ask for more. All I'm asking for is information. Factually accurate information that we as adults and as Americans can process and do with what we want in a free society. So that is the basic outline. Now, where is it? Okay, how do we get this passed and where this is? Well, I'm trying to think of a way to be upbeat here. And not partisan, but the majority party controls dictatorially the calendar, the legislative agenda, the legislative calendar. They make decisions about what bills run, when, and what they say. Okay? And right now, the majority party who controls both the House and the Senate is, I hesitate to use the term wholly owned subsidiary of corporate America, but is awfully, let's just say there's a very coincidental concurrence of positions and campaign contributions, for what that's worth. We also have a governor who just, for him to do something that upsets his corporate donors, I just think would be a miracle. And so we're in a tough position right now. So what I am doing now, I mean, we can't even get a hearing, So what I am doing now is I am trying to, which I'm trying to do on a lot of issues, because that's what you're left to do in the minority, is create and continue to push the debate. Because at the end of the day, I think we will prevail on this. It'll be, a fight, but we will prevail on this, and we've got to keep pushing this. And as I think more science comes out, it will become more apparent, and that there are problems, and people will be more increasingly demanding of having this sort of information. So, in the meantime, if you want to do something to be helpful, meet with your senator, if he's not me, and say to him or her, do you support me knowing what is in the food I buy? Do you support that or do you not support that? Oh, well, of course you could handle it, but other people, man, they're going to read that. You have a right to be wrong in this country. You have a right, you have a right to, there are all these scientific studies about how Twinkies are bad for you. You can eat Twinkies. That's, you have a right to do that. You don't have to be right. You just have to have the choice. So get your legislator on record. And then if you have a Republican legislator, I would get them on record. And if they say, oh, well, yeah, you should have that information, say, what will you do? What can you do to get this bill moving? Will you talk to Will you talk to your leadership? Will you tell me what that conversation was, what happened in that conversation? How do we make this go? So, and then, if we keep this around, that's why I'm doing this film thing on Saturday. If we keep this alive enough, then hopefully at the end of the day, we'll be able to make some progress on it. And hopefully more private enterprise will do it, and other states will do it, because the more it's required, the less it's worth it to the industry to fight it. Eventually, they're going to have to make 2 different products, some labeled, some not. It's just, So, that is sort of where we stand. I hope that is, I try not to be depressing at these meetings, but I'm happy to take any questions, and then I have to go to Wissahickon.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, hi. Daylin, I wanted to ask, actually, this is a 2-part question. First, the bill, is it stuck in some committee, or has it?
Yes, I think it's in the Health Committee.
No, it's agriculture.
Agriculture? That's not a good committee.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the Agriculture and Rural
Was that Elder
Affairs.
Vogel?
Yeah.
Yes.
Senator Vogel. You can call Senator Vogel.
Elder Vogel.
Yeah.
He has a great mustache.
Okay, and the other question I had, it said that these laws rely on other states to pass. In other words, other states have to pass legislation.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Okay.
They don't have to. But if they do, I mean, for example, if California had passed labeling, that would have. I mean, certain states are big enough that they have such a percentage of the food market that they force changes that go nationwide. So, we were hoping it comes back in California. We're hoping other big states do it. Brandon.
That's my middle name. Josh.
Right, Josh.
So,
I'm sorry.
do you know Tim Briggs is behind it?
Do I know if Tim Briggs is behind it? I don't know because he's a House member and we don't speak to them. But my guess is, and I'm just too busy. I just haven't done. But my guess is he is. I don't know, but I certainly ask him. It's certainly worth an ask.
How about Senator Pileggi?
Well, Senator Pileggi is the one who decides what runs on the floor.
Right.
Senator Pileggi has indicated no desire to take on. Senator Pileggi's a soft-spoken guy. He's not a flamboyant guy, but he is every bit as right wing as anyone in the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah, I contacted his office March of last year. I had his who was it? It was his
general counsel.
General counsel give me a call on the phone. First, they had emailed or sent me a letter in regards to all the nutritional values that they're putting on the food labeling, but they're only allowed to put it on certain restaurants that have a certain number of restaurants, and it has to be on fast food that has a certain number of fast food restaurants. And I said to him, well, that's all well and good, but I'm not really talking about the nutritional values of our food. I'm actually talking about what they're putting in it, putting the food together with. Where the meat is from, where the dairy is from, where all their their corn is from, their soy, all of that. But I went and I wrote him back and labeled everything specifically. His general counsel called me back, said that there's nothing they can do. It has to go to the federal level.
Well, that's simply not true.
And that's what they had said to me. And I'm going to push some more because this is something that needs to be done.
Why would the food industry have spent $47 million fighting labeling in California? I don't know what they spent in Washington, but it was some ungodly amount for a state the size of Washington. Does anyone know that?
I
I
don't.
would say it was 28.
20-some million.
28 million.
Sheesh.
$20-some million. $20-some million. I mean,
And they are spending that currently here.
But
in
you
the
have
state.
you have to wonder though why, if they're spending all this money to stop the labeling, why are how is it not bad if they're trying to stop it?
that's a great question.
You know what I mean? Like, what are they trying to stop? What are they really trying to stop us from knowing?
They don't want you to know this because they fear that there'll be increasing scientific information coming out that will cause people not to buy it.
Yeah.
And if one thing they can be counted on is to fight to protect their profits, and we see that from everything from fossil fuel companies to tobacco companies, public health, and I don't know how they do it, but in terms of their conscience, but public health is a distant consideration. That's not. I mean, it's how can we make the most money? And because if you see the internal documents from the tobacco industry, all that they knew. I mean, you remember the famous case of the Pinot. We know people are going to blow up, but it's cheaper to pay off a few families whose people blow up than it is to fix the Pinot. So I mean, that's the. I don't get that mentality. Maybe that's why
I don't either.
Anyway, I apologize. I'm off to my next thing.
That's okay.
Thanks for taking an interest in this issue. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see some of you at the movie on Saturday. I'm told it's I don't know. I think Brad Pitt's in it or something. Am I right about that? Maybe not. Anyway, very good seeing you.
Pete's
Oh, sure.
Since it's such a
And
summer-
also, a little quick, to give you a recipe book and a T-shirt.
Is this fun foods you can make with GMOs or no?
Non-GMOs. And I substituted the ingredients.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. How do we do this?